Kip here. Well, today we're going to do a part 2 of the trail rig build. And I did a video a couple months ago when I got this S10. It's a 2001 two-wheel drive S10. And I made a video about building some kind of budget trail rig out of it using 3/4 ton or 1 ton axles. And this is your update video for those guys that really dig that kind of stuff, if you're a gearhead and that kind of thing. And so this video is going to be where I'm at with the trail rig right now, and we're going to bring you up to speed. I've watched several videos before I built this one on YouTube to see, you know, putting a straight axle under a two-wheel drive, especially building all your mounting positions and all your you know, for your leaf springs and that kind of thing. And there wasn't a lot out there, so as you follow along with me in this build, I'm going to show you guys what I did. Now, I'm not a professional by all means. I'm just having some fun and you know, doing up some welding and some fabricating and that kind of thing. But this is what I'm doing. This is the way I'm going to do it. And where we're at today, I'm going to bring you up to date. Both axles are under the vehicle. The steering has been done. There's lots for me to do yet, but I want to bring you guys up to speed on where I'm at in this build. And I'll explain some of the things, why I did it and how I did it, basically. And so let's get the camera off the tripod, bring you over to it, and we'll walk you through where we're at. And this is a video for you gearheads out there and the guys that want to build a straight axle, straight front axle S10 type trail rig or a mud bog or whatever you're going to do with it. This is going to be a trail rig for me. Not getting too big on it. Obviously wouldn't fit in my garage. I got mock-up tires and wheels on it right now. My goal is to put 35s on it. It'll definitely clear 38s or 40s, but 35s is where I'm looking at with the 410 gears I'm running in the axles. So let's move the camera and we'll walk you through where we're at, and I'll tell you where I'm going to go with it from here on out. So let's take a closer look for you guys that want an update video. Well, this is your update video on my budget trail rig S10 two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. So let's check it out, guys. Guys, let's take a look at the 2001 S10 two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive conversion trail rig I'm building kind of on the cheap, and we're going to walk you through it here. Obviously the box is still off it. We're going to start in the back here, talk a little bit about what I did back here. Corporate 14, I added, these are standard leaf springs right here. I added 2 extra, you know, heavily arched springs off. I think it's actually a 3/4 ton truck, and then I added 2 leaf springs to it, 6-inch angled blocks. Obviously new U-bolts, new pads. The pads are just on there, they're not welded. You know, obviously I gotta get the pinion angle right, but I gotta wait until I get the weight of the rest of the motor train and transfer case in it to get the pinion angle right. We got some lift bars here. I know some people call them Cal-Trax for four-wheel drives. These actually came off a K20, and you know, the springs on a K20 run on the outside of the frame, and they would mount up further, so I had to kind of shorten these up, find the right spot to you know, build these pads and put it in here. And when you add them, you know, lift blocks, you get that tire, you know, the axle rotation and wheel hop. This should solve all that. Obviously I still need shocks put on here, and you know, obviously run the brake lines and that kind of thing. But this is where I'm going with it. Those are 6-inch blocks, and you know, with the axle underneath the springs, a couple of extra leaf springs, it's going to set up pretty nice. So let's go around the other side here. It's a Corporate 14. It's still an open rear end. I'm going to put a locker in it, and actually add a different shackle, so I got some adjustment for the pinion angle, and actually to set the ride height once the weight's in it. These are just all-stars. The U-bolts, I had a local company make those. Those are 15, I think they're 15 inches. So they're, you know, a couple inches longer than stock. The lift blocks are 6-inch standard cast lift blocks. The leaf spring pads are from Barnes four-wheel drive. They call them the anti-hop, or they give you some extra because they're a little bit longer. I like them because they're longer and they're real beefy. So, and they're fairly cheap off eBay, or you can buy them directly from them. These are just some, I don't know, they're kind of, some people call them Cal-Trax anti-wheel hop bars. I call them traction bars for four-wheel drives. They just kind of mount on the pad here. And then these brackets, you know, this wasn't designed for the S10. I had to kind of fab these a little bit. These are off a K20. They were a lot longer, so I had to shorten them up, obviously, to make them work. So there's where we're at with the rear axle. I got to get some shocks yet. Not sure if I'm just going to go with some standard S10 type shocks, like +7, +8, and build the brackets off the axle, or if I'm just going to get some K20 +6, +4, and build me a drop down cross member to hook the top of the shocks to. Not sure about that. So let's move to the front of the vehicle, show you where I'm at with this, or on the other side here. And then we'll talk about the steering. I did the steering a little bit different than most people do. Alright, let's take a closer look here. So the front, obviously this was a two-wheel drive, and it wasn't easy. I'm not going to lie about it. It was pretty difficult. Building the crossbar in the front here. Let me get a better look on that for you. I don't know how well the lighting's going to work here. There we go. I first started, gotta keep in mind this was a two-wheel drive. So I first started with a 2x5 1/4-inch square tubing, rectangle tubing, and then I welded it to this with these pads. I think these are Barnes pads. I'm not sure. These might be off eBay too, and they're for the standard K20 leaf springs. These leaf springs are +4, so they're actually a 4-inch lift for a standard K20. So I welded it all together. I didn't have much of a pinion angle, so I decided, well, my shackles in the back are kind of already up, so I really couldn't bring the back up. So I decided to cut and add an extra 2 inches. So if you're going to do this from scratch, I'd highly recommend go with a 4x5 square tubing, so you don't have to do this like I did here to fab this together and then weld it to the frame. So I would start with a 4x5 square tubing, and then you'd be solid that way, and then put your leaf spring pads right on there, and then come across that way. The pinion angle is going to be pretty good, plus with the weight of the motor and transfer case, once I get it in there, the pinion angle should actually kick up a little bit more. I mean, I don't have the exact degrees and all that yet, but if I need to shim, I can. That's not a problem. And then back here, try to get this best I can. I had to weld these pads on with some other shackle hangers and stuff. It's all eBay stuff. A lot of the stuff you can get right off eBay. Those are All-Star actual shackles, which I shortened, and pretty typical stuff, not too bad. And then I don't know if you can really make that out on the other side over there, where I had to weld the spring up to. And then let's go on the top here. Maybe we can see it a little bit better up on top here. There we go. Give you a better idea on what that looks like there. So that was just some kind of 5-inch channel that I welded, and then welded underneath the hole underneath and all that really good. And let's get a better look underneath again. I'll go underneath, we'll check that out a little bit better. Alright guys, what I did here, I took some 5-inch channel, notched it out, and then once I got everything squared, I basically started it in the front here. Squared all that up. These are standard K20 leaf springs. They're +4. And then I found out where I needed to go in the back. Welded the pads on. I got some adjustment with the shackles, but to get the pinion angle right, like I said before, I had to add the extra 2 inches in the front. So I'm figuring once the weight of the truck gets in here, the pinion angle should go a little bit more. If not, I can shim it. I can shim the pads here. I'm already on top. On the top bolt on the rear shackle on the front spring here. I mean, I can go the other way, but that'll, if I get too much pinion angle, then I could just drop down one bolt hole, which will work. So basically, the thing I can recommend is get everything squared up as best you can. I mean, that's the hardest part with this front end. You just take off everything else you want it and run with it. Now, standard two-wheel drive S10, even the four-wheel drive S10s have the steering box on the inside. Well, they're not designed to handle, the 35-inch tires or 40s or whatever you're going to do, mud bogging, whatever you're going to do with this rig. I'm just going to trail ride with it. I put a standard K20 steering box in here. It was a little bit of work, don't get me wrong. I may have to roll a couple pictures in here because I do got the inner wheel well back in. But if you look just right, you have to put bunds through the frame. Otherwise the frame will just crush. It'll collapse when you tighten the bolts up. And I got a couple pictures I could probably roll in here, and we'll get on the, maybe we can get a better look here. So I drilled through, got it where I want it. I had to plate the top because the top bun actually went through the frame, the top side of the frame. So I put a plate on there and welded that up. I got a couple U-joints with a Heim joint here going up to the steering, because now the box is on the outside. What I like about that is everything here now is K20. You know, this is K20, this is K20. I put a plus 4 to 6 inch steering arm on it, just an eBay unit, and these are kind of a bear to get the wedges out, the studs and all that. You got to use heat, got to use a torch, get them out, get that with the kit too. And then these, I put these are this sleeve and all that's new. You can see these are extended quite a bit because this box actually sets up further ahead, but they're still, the threads go beyond these clamps, so it's like 1.25 inches, you know, on each side here. So there's plenty of thread. There's over 1.25 inches of thread still going into the center clamp. But this way, it's a standard K20 setup. We'll take a look on the other side, but like I said, if you can get in here and look at this, see, a lot of people don't talk about the steering and that on these. But this is basically the same setup as the K20 would be. You know, the K20 uses the little shims, but there's buns in the frame. Well, this one here, I actually used the top, no, actually this bottom bun is the OEM bun for a two-wheel drive. The other three I had to drill and put cores through it, or slugs, or whatever way you want to call it, just standard piping, and then I drilled it out and then fabricated it so I could tighten this down, because if you don't put the buns in, you'll just crush the frame. U-joint, this is a 30 spline GM U-joint, 3/4 double D. This is a Heim joint for a 3/4 inch double D or 3/4 inch, and then the top one is double D, 3/4 inch double D. So you need 2 U-joints and a Heim joint and about 18-20 inches of the double D stuff. You can get this right from Summit, pretty cheap. I think these U-joints are off eBay. Everything's been counter dimpled and then Loctited once I got everything set where I want it to. Let's go up above and take a closer look from the top side here, and maybe I can show you a little bit more. So like I said, the top one here, actually the bottom one is a standard. These other three I had to drill and put buns through, the actual tubing through the frame, weld them, and then bolt the bolted on the steering box. And there's your top U-joint, and that's just the double D coming out of the factory steering column. That way you can get that kick over, and actually loosens you up some room up here and gets you some space to work and that kind of thing. So, but anyways, I think it's going to set up pretty nice. There's no body lift in this, nothing like that. So that'll give you an idea where we're at with this. These are just standard mock-up 16 950 tires. I'm building it to run 35s. That's where I want to be with it. So I'm pretty happy with the way it's setting up. You know, there's some states with different headlight rules and different things like that. I believe it's 54 inches here. We're at 48 inches as the headlight now. So with the 35s, I'll be fine. I didn't really look up the bumper regulations and that kind of thing. So, but it's coming along pretty good. To me, the biggest thing is actually the steering. Some guys do a high steer and use a standard S10 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive box. I want to put my box on the exterior. I got a few friends that actually do mud bogging stuff. They say that's the way to go. It's stronger. But some people say, well, your tire's going to rub as you turn to the right. But if you got a good offset rim, you know, I don't think you'll ever have a problem unless you're running 44s. Then it might rub. So to me, that was the biggest project, was the front end of this and the steering box. But everything was basically eBay bought. Barnes has everything. Barnes 4-wheel drive. They have everything too. And let's finish out this video. We'll talk a little bit more about this rig. But this is your update video, guys. It's setting up pretty nice. And I mean, I don't know what the overall lift will be. Like I said, this is a standard K20 front leaf spring plus 4. So it's actually a 4-inch lift, but then, you know, being that this is a 2-wheel drive with the flip, you know, the axle, you know, some people say, well, it's, you know, it'd be 6 inches of lift, or 4 to 6 inches on a standard K20, doing on the S10 like this with the spring perches and that kind of thing. You're probably looking at 10, 11, 12 inches of lift. I don't know. I'm not real into all that, but it's setting up pretty nice. I know some of you guys are going to ask. Keep in mind, these are 16 950 tires. Give you an idea what we're running with here. These are roughly, I'm going to say 29.5 inches. So some people want to ask, you know, by building it with the, you know, the tubing I used in the front with the springs I've used, where's everything at? So like I said, there's the headlights. They start about 46 inches, you know, and there's the bumper. I know there's a lot of different laws out there. Probably about dead center is about 35.5. Let's do the rocker, and then I'll show you where the frame's at on it. So you're talking 29.5 inch tires. You know, we're already at 31 inches to the bottom of the rocker, 32.5 to the top of the rocker. The frame, I don't know. I'm just doing this for some people for a preference, or reference, I should say. You know, the frame you're looking at, I'm gonna go towards the front here. You're looking at about 27 inches underneath the cab there. So anyway, guys, that's just to give you an idea of where everything's setting on this, you know. So if that helps you at all, you know, determining what you want to do for lift and that kind of thing. So like I said, those are 4-inch K20 springs. This was a 2-wheel drive, obviously. You watched the video. The front I got 2x5 double stack, so that's 4 inches. And then these pads on the bottom here, you're looking at, you know, those are off eBay. I'm not even sure, you know, what them are or whatever. They're for a 3-inch inside diameter spring, so that's what I went with, a 1/4 inch. And then the back, you know, you got the shackles and stuff. So just to give you guys an idea of where the lift is on this. The back, like I said, the lift blocks, those are 6-inch. They are angled. I added a couple leaf springs to the standard S10 springs, and then I got the shackles in the back there. So all right, let's continue this video, guys. That's all I can really say about that. Let's finish out this video. We'll talk a little bit more about the direction of where we're going to go with this, and we'll finish out this part 2 of a series of videos of building a trail rig, 2-wheel drive S10 to 4-wheel drive trail rig. So well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, this thing's coming along. It's taken quite a bit of time. I've done all the fabrication, all the work myself, moving the axles, everything. I've had no help from anybody, believe it or not. It just takes time. You know, use your jack stands. You know, roll stuff around, measure everything twice, cut once. You know how they say. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Coming up in this series, I guess it will be a part 3 to this. The 400 small block Chevy, I'm going to be going through that. Keeping that a budget too. It's a good running 400 small block, like I explained in part 1. We're putting different heads on it, different camshaft, that kind of thing. We're going to run all through that when we get to the motor segment of this series. And we're doing it on the cheap, guys. So I got a couple of tricks that I used to do years ago, you know, such as putting 305 Chevy heads on the 400 small block. The 601 castings are 58 cc's. It'll bump it up a couple, you know, steps on the compression. So we'll walk through all that, and we'll probably show you even how to drill the steam holes and that kind of stuff. But that'll be a separate video coming up in the near future here, guys. And then we'll do the rest of the drivetrain. TH350 tranny, which has already been rebuilt. It's got a stall converter going in it. I think it's about a 2800 stall TCI. And then a gear drive 205 transfer case. And then the axles. And then I got to plumb all the brake lines. The shocks yet. That's another thing I got to get out of the shocks. Shock brackets. Fuel system. I'm not sure I'm putting a stock fuel tank back in it, or a fuel cell. Not sure yet, guys, but we'll bring you along, and we'll see where it turns out. If it gets done this year, that's great. If not, it'll be out in the middle of the winter or in the spring. So keep tuned in, and we'll see where this rig takes us. As always, guys, thanks for watching. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.